This is Street Knowledge with Chris Graham.
This is Street Knowledge. I am Chris Graham, and we're going to talk some UVA football today. Normally have my tag team partner, Scott German, who joins me talking UVA football, UVA basketball, UVA whatever else. He's getting ready to go on vacation, so I can't blame him for that. He's thinking about the Outer Banks here in October. So I'm going to leave Scott to get ready to go and enjoy some last sun of the year in 2017. And we'll take care of handling the talk about UVA football getting ready for Pitt this weekend. Pitt, a 3-5 team coming off its first ACC win, but the stars have realigned in one sense. 3-5 record, 1-3 in the ACC, and Pitt is favored by 3 points over the Cavs. Cavs' 4-game winning streak broken this past weekend. That demoralizing 41-10 loss at home to Boston College. So Virginia football has lost its luster in that sense, at least with the betting public, the various power indices that are out there. Virginia looked at as an underdog going into the weekend against a team that, again, is just coming off its first ACC win. A win over Duke. These two teams have that one common opponent, Virginia and Duke. Virginia won that game 28-21, a game that it was a little odd. There were a couple pick sixes on both sides of the ball. Virginia led 28-14 late. Duke scored to get the game within one touchdown. The Pitt win over Duke was 24-17 this past weekend. So both teams with a win over Duke by one touchdown at home. Actually, I know the Pitt win was at Duke. But Duke actually led that game in the fourth quarter, and then Pitt rallied to take control late. You look at the stats of this game, and the stat trends would seem to favor Virginia pretty significantly. The Pittsburgh Panthers really struggling on both sides of the ball to get a firm footing, if you want to say. The offense is led by Ben DiNucci, the quarterback. He's kind of taken over as a quarterback. 54.8% completion rate, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Not great numbers there. The passing game doesn't, Jester Way, the leading wide receiver, 27 catches, 17 yards a catch. But then Quandre Henderson, a guy that, I've liked a lot over the last couple of years. I've voted for him a couple times for all ACC teams. Seems like he's one of those guys who's been around for a long, long time. Kind of used in a similar way as Virginia uses Olamide Zaccheaus. He's a receiver who can move the chains on third downs, and also used on jet sweeps, and actually even out of the backfield, again like Zaccheaus is. But this year only averaging 11.5 yards catch, 5.6 yards per rush, and not really getting a lot of touches. He's played every game, so not sure, not having watched Pitt play that much, not sure what the issue is with him not being used as much as he has in the past. He's a guy that, he's a danger every time he gets the ball. At least he had been in past years. Also used on punt returns, kick returns, but just not getting the touches this year that he'd gotten in past years. The Pitt defense gives up 434 yards a game. Ranked, where did I have them ranked here? They're towards the bottom of the ACC defensively, 12th in the ACC defensively. But last week against Duke, they looked pretty good. For a team that gives up 434 a game, last week Duke gained 359 and committed 2 turnovers against this Pitt defense. So you just don't know if maybe last week was the start of a turnaround for this Pitt team. A Pitt team that last year, of course, the only team to beat Clemson, the eventual national champs, or if last week was the outlier. We'll see, I guess, this week. Pitt also, on the season, seems to have been susceptible to giving up yards on the ground. Opponents averaging 163.6 yards a game, 4.7 yards per carry. But last week, Duke only got 76 yards, 26 rushes, so under 3 yards a carry. So again, you just have to wonder: was that the start of a second half resurgence for this Panthers team, or was that an outlier? Was maybe Duke underperforming last week? We just won't know. Virginia, boy, you talk about outlier. We have to hope for Virginia fans, at least, that that performance against Boston College was an outlier. A Boston College team that put up big yards in its win 2 weeks ago over Louisville, 555 yards of offense, put 512 up on Virginia's defense last week. Virginia's defense had come into the game giving up right around 330 a game defensively in total offense to opponents. Got gashed seriously. Two big plays, two 76-yard touchdowns in the first quarter on very simple plays. One was a jet sweep where the running back basically ran down the left sideline untouched after getting past the line of scrimmage. Another was a wide receiver screen where the pass was sort of inside, not even on the edge, and the receiver cut it back up in the middle of the field and ran untouched, 76 yards. Two long touchdowns first quarter, and the defense never really recovered. That's one side of it. I mean, that's a Boston College team that put up big numbers against a Louisville team the week before. What was surprising even more so was Virginia's offense struggling against a BC defense that had given up over 450 a game on the season, had given up 625, and that win over Louisville held Virginia to around 250 yards of offense. And Kurt Binkert threw an interception on a backhanded, left-handed pass. He eventually gets taken out of the game. The red shirt burned on Lindell Stone. He throws two INTs in the fourth quarter. Just the wheels coming off the bandwagon in a big fashion. Virginia couldn't get anything going offensively. The line giving up 3 sacks in the game, and you couldn't move the ball on the ground. It was just an ugly game all the way around for Virginia. Offensively, defensively, and one. Here's what you got to say about that game. If you're Coach Bronco Mendenhall and staff, you burned the game film. There's just nothing to learn from that game. You have to hope and you have to think that this was a Virginia team that, Scott and I talked about this yesterday a little bit when we were talking about the hire of, the new athletics director Carla Williams. That as far as this BC loss goes, Virginia had come into that game on a 4-game winning streak. This is a program that hadn't won 4 in a row in a long, long time, I think dating back to the 2007 season. A 5-1 record going in, first time again since 2007 that the team had that kind of a start to a season. And, nobody on those sidelines, at least in terms of players wearing uniforms, had experience, going into a game with that kind of a high. Your 4-game winning streak, you're 5-1, you got a home game, a chance to get bowl eligible for the first time in 6 years. The last time Virginia played in a bowl was 2011. And, a lot of stuff's going right for you. But the hard work that you do to get to that stage is what got you there for a program that was projected to win 3-4 games by most people. I said 1 going into the season, of course. A lot of folks listening to this podcast, you remember me for that, and you hold me to it. So you gotta. Sometimes you have to learn how to win and learn how to deal with wins. And this Virginia program last week didn't deal well with that 4-game winning streak. And I look at the totality of where we are right now with Virginia, 5-2 record, 2-1 in ACC, and say that wasn't a mirage. Virginia beat a really good Boise State team at Boise State. Handle them at Boise State. They got 2 ACC wins against Duke and North Carolina. And North Carolina is now 1-7 on the season. So that's a program that clearly is struggling after some really good seasons in recent years. Lost last week 59-7 to Virginia Tech, but you went on the road at Carolina. You beat a Duke team that's now 4-4 overall. Had a win over Northwestern earlier this season. You beat them. And a Connecticut team that is not a world beater, but you beat them handily. So, you have a couple of blowout wins, a couple of tight wins. Again, nothing that feels to me like it was just a mirage. I'll use that word again. And then Virginia last week, I'm not surprised that Boston College will beat them. Scott and I, when we did our pregame previews last week, both projected wins for Virginia, tighter wins. I had it 20-10. Scott said 23-10. That said, not surprised that BC would beat Virginia, but surprised mightily that BC would blow out Virginia the way they did. It was 24-0 early in the second quarter. Virginia never got back in the game. It was 24-7 at halftime. I think BC scored first, a field goal to start the second half, and again, it just never got closer. So Virginia never in that game. That was the surprise. And so that's why you just say burn the game film, start from scratch. It's kind of one of those moments where coaches hate losses. Everybody hates losses. Fans hate losses. Players hate losses. But in this case, with this team, this young team, for the most part, you got a senior quarterback, 2 seniors on defense, second-team All-America preseason, Micah Kaiser and Quinn Blanding leading your defense. But for the most part, the bulk of the players are redshirt freshmen, some true freshmen, sophomores, some juniors. The guys who play the bulk of the snaps on the 2-deep. You're talking about a team that, again, one, learning how to win, 2, learning how to win consistently, and 3, just learning how to play week to week at a high level. A coach will take a loss like that and say, look, I told you we have to work harder, we have to earn it, and I expect the Virginia team will come out on Saturday and have a different approach. And that said, this Pitt team, even with a 3-5 record, even with just the one win in the ACC, they're coming off that win over a Duke team that, earlier this season, I think it was, in fact, that might have been the 4th straight loss for Duke now, but was 4-0 at one point with a win over Northwestern, a Northwestern team that's a bowl contender this year in the Big Ten. So, Pitt is a team that's given Virginia problems in recent years. I mentioned Quadri Henderson. The reason I have such respect for Quadri Henderson, whenever I vote for all ACC teams, this is usually my approach. My first approach is without even looking at numbers, just judging the talent of the guys that I've seen play against Virginia. I watch Virginia every week. We cover Virginia every week, obviously. And so those guys who stand out from memory of the season, the 8 games that Virginia plays, sort of get the first bump in line for me. And Quadri Henderson's a guy that stood out for the last couple of years because of his performances against Virginia. And so, this is a Pitt team that Pat Narduzzi, the coach, is built around his image. He's a guy that, last year, of course, they won a lot of high-scoring games. When they beat Clemson, the game was in the 40s, as I recall. But largely, this is a program that's going to be built around running the ball and playing defense. And you can look at the offensive numbers. They do run the ball well. Last week, for example, the win over Duke, the big damage was done on the ground. Running back, I'm trying to scroll through my notes here. The running back who did the damage last week was Darren Hall. Hall gaining 254 yards on the ground, had a couple long touchdowns, a 79-yard run in the first quarter, 92-yard run in the third quarter. And that's bad news for a Virginia defense that gave up those 2 big plays to start the game, basically, in effect, against Boston College. Hall, a guy who can put the big numbers up on the board. And, you talk about Jester Way. He's a speedster out there, 17 yards a catch. Henderson, again, even though his numbers are down this year, still a guy that is a concern. You've got a receiver, Rafael Arejo Lopez, who's a more possession receiver, 36 catches, 12.3 yards a catch. It's a team that's, I think, can give Virginia some problems this year. I don't think there's any question about that. And I'm not sure, though, that Virginia, the fact that the game was on the road certainly gives Pitt an advantage. But I think this is a game that Virginia, not only can win, I think it's a game Virginia should win. Kind of getting to the analysis part of the conversation here. You look back last week, the ugly, embarrassing loss to Boston College. This is a team with a lot of pride. I'll talk about this in the context of, yes, I was the guy who said before the season they were the worst in the ACC, and I wasn't the only one who said that. Everybody that I know voted them 7th, including all the regular Virginia beat writers and other media had them 7th in the Coastal Division. But I remember talking with Quinn Blanding before the season, talking and about him coming back this year. His decision, he would have been a 2nd or 3rd round pick in the NFL draft this past spring. Why come back? And he and Micah Kaiser, who also came back, also would have been probably more of a 4th or 5th round pick in the draft. They both came back for a reason. They thought they could be part of something special. And this is a program that's got a lot of pride. These guys who have a lot of pride. If you follow any of the players on Twitter, if you do Twitter at all, you've seen the hashtag. I'm trying to think. The hashtag is New Standard, and that New Standard hashtag. That's the theme. They're setting a new standard for Virginia football, and Kurt Binkert's had a solid season. The last couple of weeks, some hiccups. The fumble at the end of the Carolina game that gave the Heels a chance late to to take the lead, and the Virginia defense stepped up and got the big stop on fourth down. And then the interception last week, only the one turnover for him, but it was of the nature that certainly concerns you. It was a very careless interception. But a team with a lot of pride, a team with a lot of skill. If the offensive line can rebound, which I expect they will this week, I think this is a game the Cavs can win, a game the Cavs again should win. And I'm looking for still a very tight. I don't think this Virginia team is going to blow out this Pitt team on the road. I think this Pitt team itself has a lot to play for. A 3-5 record, a loss sets the Panthers at 3-6 and really puts them on notice. You got to go 6-6 to go to a bowl, and if you're playing in a bowl and you're at that level, somewhere between 6, 7, 8 wins, you're not playing in the playoff. You're not even competitive for an Orange Bowl berth. You're not thinking about those upper tier bowls. But for some programs, and Pitt would be one, certainly Virginia would be one, a bowl is still important. That's a reward. It's another month of practice at the end of the season. Kind of like an extra spring practice, really in effect, especially for your young guys. And you lose this game if you're Pitt. You're 3-6. You got to win out to be bowl eligible. I think if that Pitt program, that sideline's going to have a lot of pride as well. They're going to want to win this game, control their home turf, and give themselves a fighting chance to be playing in December in a bowl game. You're going to get a great shot from Pitt in this game. But I think Virginia wins this one. And the score that keeps sticking to my head is 20-17 Virginia, which means, yes, we're going to be, you Virginia fans listening to this podcast, you're going to be just like you were for the Duke game and the UNC game. You're going to be biting nails and pacing around in your living room in front of the TV, screaming an awful lot at the screen, at the things going on. That or, I kind of alternate myself from the pacing around and muttering to being superstitious and kind of sitting in a chair in a weird position for a while because one play worked out well when I was sitting that way. So whatever the case may be, you're going to be nervous, going to be superstitious because it's going to be a tight game. But I think Virginia pulls this one out. And looking at the schedule, Virginia, the game at Pitt this week, I want to say is a 3 o'clock start. I'm trying to click my internet to get working real quick here to verify that. But I want to say it was a 3 o'clock start at Pitt. And internet, help me out here. Let's see here. Actually 12:30 start. So good. I would have been out running errands and somehow missed that, right? Or had you doing the same thing. 12:30 start at Pitt. Game is on Raycom Sports, so check your local listings for that. We'll be live blogging during the game at AugustaFreePress.com. You can follow my insight, I suppose, right, during the game. Also on Twitter, you can follow us there, specifically me, at AugFreePress. My Twitter handle is CG3. And we'll be live blogging, tweeting during the game, and then afterwards, of course, the post-game recap, press conference notes from Coach Bronco Mendenhall and players, insight from me, such as I can offer insight as to breaking down the game, and a post-game podcast as well. So that all starts at 12:30 on Saturday, and UVA at Pitt, all the details there, and just kind of looking ahead. I mean, this game for Virginia is a key. You talk about tough schedules down the stretch. This game at Pitt, then you've got November 4th, Georgia Tech at home. Then you've got at Louisville, at Miami, and then at home against Virginia Tech on Black Friday. So I look at that and say all 5 of those games still remaining, including the Pitt game this weekend. All those games are winnable, but certainly all those games also losable for Virginia. So, a lot of I'm going to call them 50-50 games. They're not 50-50 games. Virginia will probably be really underdogs playing out from this stage. You look at being an underdog at Pitt, you're certainly going to be a dog at home against Georgia Tech, if not, even just a 1 or 2 point dog at home to Georgia Tech. On the road at Louisville, on the road at Miami. Miami, a top 10 team right now. That game November 18th down in South Florida. And then even Virginia Tech at home, you're still going to be a dog there as well. So, I mean, I still think there's a couple wins there, maybe even 3 wins in these last 5 games. But it starts this weekend. You got to beat Pitt. If you can beat Pitt and go 500 the rest of the way, you're talking about an 8-win team here for Virginia. And considering that I thought 1 win was the most likely scenario, that's that's an improvement, if you want to say so. But anyway, 12:30 Saturday. Join us on the live blog. Watch the game. You can join in on the live blog actually as well and comment with me, ask me questions, get my thoughts, whatever the case may be. Tell me what an idiot I am. I don't really care. I might agree as far as that goes. But 12:30 Saturday, Augusta Free Press, and we'll be live blogging some Pitt football with UVA. Until then, we'll sign off. Thanks for listening. Have a great day.